So our next storyteller is Michael Cavus. And when I asked Michael when the last time he faced an obstacle was, he told me that it was trying to convince the self-checkout that there was nothing in the bagging area. We've all been there. I tell you, we've got some comedians here tonight. It's pretty incredible.
Thank you. There's something about time and how we define it that seems almost immovable, almost imprecise. I was arguing with my roommate in 1998 about this topic because I had just gotten a ticket for parking in a park at night. I told him the sign said no parking after dusk, but what is dusk? Can you define an essence of dusk? I may define dusk one way and you another. My roommate was learning English, so pulled out the dictionary he always had with him and went to the word dusk. No, wait, he said, you can define it. I don't think you should fight this ticket because look, dusk is the time between daylight and nighttime. You can define this. He could tell he was annoying me. Look, he said, I just want you to be prepared. In 1998, I was doing a lot of wandering. I couldn't sleep very well at night. I would get up listless, and I would say, I'm just going to go for a walk. These walks would go till 2 or 3 a.m. I realized I was opening myself up to danger, perhaps even a crime of some kind. Unfortunately, during this time, I was obsessed with these real-life crime shows, unsolved mysteries. And I wasn't really afraid that I'd be murdered. I was afraid I'd be accused of murder. If you've watched these shows, you know that the real thing you learn is how easy it is to be accused of murder. You don't have an alibi, for instance. In one episode, this woman went to McDonald's, bought French fries, came home, left them on the counter, and didn't eat them. The investigator said in all seriousness, that's how we knew she was a suspect. What psycho would not eat hot French fries? Who would eat them cold? We knew we had something. And I could see myself doing this, buying French fries and saying, I don't have ketchup, and then going out and getting ketchup. And them asking me, why didn't you ketchup at the restaurant? Because I had forgotten. But did you get ketchup at the store? Well, no, I didn't. Well, why not? Because I realized how silly it was for me to have driven 10 minutes to get ketchup. So I drove back. Somehow, though, I would do this late night wandering and still wake up at 5 a.m. to go to my park job. I was working for the parks department, and I had this great solitary existence where I'd have an assignment, I would go out and fix a trail, I'd go out and do some work, and I'd be done, and I'd go home. I'd quit college, and this was my goal. I wanted to just work on the trails and work in the parks. I was frankly tired of trying to learn these syllabus and these lessons I wasn't really interested in, and I had a whole curriculum I had set up for myself, and I was going to learn independently. I know that seems like a cop-out, like I quit because I didn't want to be there, but it really wasn't. So, to my horror one day, the park manager called me into his office and said, I'm offering you promotion. I'm going to make you a manager. No one wants to be a manager. Everyone says they do, but they don't. And particularly at this time of my life, I didn't want to be a manager. So I wanted to refuse, but I couldn't because there was something about the park manager and how I connected with him that he resembled what I wished my father would be like, honest, authentic, dependable. My dad wasn't quite like that. He was absent for a large part of my life. However, in 1998, he made a sudden appearance. It wasn't so unusual, come to think about it. He did pop in and out. And of course he asked for money, but this time it seemed like he wanted to talk, to have a conversation. I resisted, had short conversations with him, until one day he called me and said, "You don't visit me enough." I wanted to point out that him and my mom abandoned me when I was very, very young, that the person that they assigned to watch me forgot to watch me, that my brother and I had gone from home to home, some of them good, some of them not, and now here he was demanding time of me. I didn't say this, though. I said, "Okay, let's talk." I found myself talking to him more frequently, and the one thing I wanted to know from him was the only constant thing in his life was his job at the circus. And yes, he worked for a circus. This is the only thing he did consistently, persistently for 15 years. And I said, "Why that? Why was that the thing that you really focused on?" He said, "Well, think about it. Every month I'm in a new city, I'm in a new town. I can tell anyone anything. I could be anybody. I could tell people I'm a musician, I'm a former baseball player. They wouldn't know the difference. Think how exciting that is to always be someone new." I stopped hearing from him for a few months, and I thought, oh, he's dropped off the radar, he's moved on, he's met someone new, and he's gone away. Until a friend knocked on my door and held a newspaper. "There's an obituary here. I think it's your father." It was. He died. It kind of made sense then why he wanted to connect. But I told myself, that's okay. I wasn't that close to him. This shouldn't really matter to me too much. But when the park manager said, "You're the only one I can count on," I said, "Okay, fine. I will be a manager. Who am I managing?" And he said, "Ex-convicts." And I said, "Not in the department, but ex-convicts?" He said, "Yes, there's a program we have. Ex-convicts need to do service work. We have work to do. We need someone to supervise their work." I reminded him I was 19 years old. Was this a good job for me? He said, "You're the most mature person here." So even though I wanted to quit and say, "No, I'm not doing this," I said yes. Soon I found myself in the company of a long string of criminals. I told myself when I started I wouldn't pry, I wouldn't ask questions, I wouldn't ask, "What did you do to get here?" I wouldn't try to psychoanalyze them. I would simply just let them talk if they wanted and do the work that they needed to do. I soon found, though, I didn't need to ask them questions. Many were looking for someone to talk to. I heard about the ex-Girl Scout leader who had embezzled money from her own scout troop. Shouldn't I be paid too? I met the drug addicts who really didn't seem to belong there, who just seemed to be kind of confused and not sure what was going on. Some of which who said, "I know a house over here. Can we stop by there?" And I'd have to say no. I stuck to my rule of not looking too much in the background until I encountered one man who blurted out, "I'm here because I nearly beat my wife to death." He said it matter-of-factly, like this was just something that he would just randomly say to anybody. He must have known how I looked at him, because he said, "But you should have seen what she did to me." As I left and signed his form, I made a note of his name. And in 1998, the internet was just a thing. And I made that connection. I could probably look this up. I could find out more. And I did. And yes, it's true, his wife was arrested, and so was he. And I could see his picture, his mugshot, where he looked confident and kind of angry. And I saw hers, where she looked exhausted and bruised and just damaged. The next day was his last day, and he looked at me and said, "Quite honestly, this past couple weeks have been the best weeks of my life. Thank you for that." I was angry. Why am I giving him the best couple weeks of his life? I shouldn't be doing this. That weekend, I was drinking with a friend, and I told her, "I'm quitting my job." She said, "It's the convicts, right?" And I said, "Yeah, kind of." She said, "It makes sense. You weren't hired to be a parole officer." And besides, it's like the worst of society, right? I cringed a bit. I thought of the drug addicts, for example. Well, they're not the worst of the worst. It sounds like, she said, you're starting to feel sympathy for them. Oh, no, I'm not, I said. She's like, okay, then quit. This was my determination. I was going to quit. One last supervision, and I would resign. So again, I found myself next to a person who was very talkative, but Jeff was even more talkative than most. Jeff's crime was identity theft, but it wasn't just your easy garden variety online identity theft. He would steal people's identities, pretend to be them, go on lavish trips, buy expensive cars, and jump to the next identity. Jeff oscillated more than most between feeling remorse and feeling almost excited that he had pulled this off. The way he spoke about his regret was like my father explained to me why he wanted to come see my birthday, but couldn't. And I just got sick of hearing it. One day, he was saying how great it was he could go to Hawaii. You know, he said, I was studying to be a music teacher. Do you know of any music teachers who go to Hawaii? He was just so proud of himself, and it annoyed me. We had a job to work on a trail, and I said, just stay in the truck for a while. I'm going to go check this out. Just stay here. Are you sure? He asked. Yes, please stay here. I leave him in a truck and go check the trail. I come back, and the truck is gone. At first, I don't believe it. I check my pockets. The keys are gone. I realize he's driven the truck away. I do have my walkie-talkie. So I was faced with the choice of telling the man who I thought of as a father that I had left the keys in the truck with the convict who had driven the truck away. I told myself, there's a good chance he'll come back. And as time passed, I thought, he's not coming back. When I was about to call in to mention the truck was stolen, I see it, a white truck over the horizon. It's Jeff. He climbs out of the truck with excitement. It's hot outside, so I got us cherry slushies. It should have been a moment where I should have been proud of the system. Here was a man who had taken advantage of so many people. And now here he was doing something for someone else. He recognized that I may be hot, I may need a drink, and he got me one. But I was just angry. Get back in the truck, I said. This made me even more determined to quit this position. It was his next to last day, and we're driving in a truck, and I still wasn't talking to him very much. You have to admit, he said, it was kind of funny, right, that I came back. I said, yeah, it was kind of funny. He's like, it's so unlike me. And I said, yeah, it is kind of unlike you, Jeff. I was driving through a four-way stop while we were talking. The oncoming traffic should have been just stopped. It should just be there, and the green light traffic should have gone. Out of the corner of my eye, though, I see a car driving into oncoming traffic. I see the face of the person driving. It's an older woman. And I think, you shouldn't be driving into this traffic. I see just enough behind me to see her car swerve into oncoming traffic, the car flip in the air, and slam down into the asphalt. Did you see that? I asked. I was shaken. Jeff said, yes, I did. But what should we do? And I said, let's go back. So I turn the truck around. I drive to the scene. Ambulance is already surrounding the scene. Is there anything I can do? I asked someone there. Not really, but you don't want to see this, trust me. I get back in the truck with Jeff. Are you okay? He asked. I'm fine, I said. He's like, you're not, though. I said, yes, I'm fine. He's like, it's okay to just say you're not okay, right? Like, you know that, right? I said, yeah, well, I guess I'm not okay. I pulled into a parking lot, and we sat for a while. And we talked a lot. And at one point he said, you don't have to be someone you're not. You don't have to live in a way you don't want to. I said, that's pretty rich coming from you, you know. He said, yeah, I know. Time had passed so much that I realized something. I said, look, it's dusk. He said, oh yeah, I never quite knew what that word meant. It was his next to last day, and I said, guess what, Jeff? You're done. He said, but I've got one more day with you. And I said, no, you're done. I'm just going to mark that you've completed your hours. You almost nearly saved someone else's life. And you got me a cherry slushie. You are reformed. I signed his paper and handed it to him. I dropped him off, and he said, you know, maybe we can be friends. I said, I don't know we can be friends, but I'm glad I met you. Sometimes things happen at the wrong time.